We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S Eagles!
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Oh, well, Eric, this is a wonderful fall morning. This team could not be playing better. We were just talking a little bit. We decided to just stop talking pre-show and just start the show. So much to talk about. This team's playing probably its best baseball of the year. You're talking about a team that has navigated recently and throughout the beginning of the season a ton of adversity. Figured that was a really good place to start, to just kind of as far back as whatever we can remember, because I'm sure there's going to be stuff that we're going to miss. Talk about some of the stuff that this team has gone through, right? Because this team has taken a very circuitous route to being 2 games out of the best record in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about pre-show how some of the adversity they faced, right? I mean, there were some issues in the beginning of the season where they just weren't clicking on all cylinders. We had a couple shows where we're sitting here and we just have not many good things to say. I think probably what was it, about a month or so ago, we're sitting here and we have a very different tone. But I mean, just recently, some of the stuff like getting swept up in New York and then handing it back to them here at Citizens Bank Park. They're playing some of their best baseball right now of the season, and they're missing a potential Cy Young candidate in Zach Wheeler, an MVP candidate in Trey Turner, and Alec Boehm. So they're doing it without like 3 of their regular players. But the thing is, here is like it almost seems like the adversity has helped a little bit, and you're getting contributions from everyone. I mean, Harrison, we could talk about each player individually, but just like Harrison Bader has been on a tear. The outfield, this like whole using like 4 or 5 outfielders has like completely flipped the outfield production around, because now Castellanos is producing when he's playing. Bader's been producing nonstop. Marsh has been producing since he came back from the injured list. Kepler is hitting the ball hard all of a sudden. It's like, where was that earlier? But it's like there's not a single bat at bat where I'm like, oh, this guy's an automatic out anymore. Whereas a month or 2 ago, we're sitting there and like, oh, Bryson Stott's up. Like, what's going to happen? Oh, Otto Kemp's going to ground a double play. Alec Boehm will ground a double play with no one on base. Like, what a far cry difference as it is now, as opposed to right before the All-Star break.
I mean, it is wild, right? And like to see, and like trade deadline, right? The trade deadline, I think a lot of us would have felt maybe a little bit differently if the trades were reversed, right? If the Harrison Bader trade happens first, the Duran trade happens on that day. I look at that part as like an inflection point. You look at where this team is and the confidence that this team has, knowing that they don't have to worry about those 2 positions anymore, because both of those were like glaring holes. When you look at what Duran has done for the rest of that bullpen and the way that it has slotted everybody into a role, you cannot put a price tag on that. Not to mention the confidence of a guy that that 9 out of 10 times is going to go in and do his job with almost no stress. I saw, and I'm sure you probably saw the overlay of it was who was it? It was the pitching ninja,
Yeah,
right? And the overlay of the two of his two pitches,
the knuckle curve,
and
and yeah, I saw that. Whoa.
I mean, and you're talking about pitches that are not that far off in velocity, but pitches that 10 feet from the plate are in the exact same position. And they end up, one ends up at the top end of the strike zone, one ends up in the left-handed batter's box. Like
Mhm.
what he's able to do. And then the contributions that you've gotten from Harrison Bader, right? That Trey Turner goes out, Harper spends one day as a leadoff. Bader has now kind of taken over that slot, and 5 games in a row with hits, getting on base, setting the table, doing what Trey Turner did, kind of getting on base ahead of the guys that you want to have with your power bats coming back up. Last night they did something really like something that I haven't seen Rob Thompson do a whole lot do, right? And stack the 3 left-handed batters right at the top of the lineup. And early you saw a little bit of struggles, but then right, second, third, fourth inning, right, as they start to get more at bats, they start to figure it out, right? And for whatever Michael Lorenzen's contributions were to Philly's history in terms of throwing his no hitter, I mean, he's what 5-10, 5-11 with a
Close to 5 ERA. Yeah.
right, like the way that he has solidified that role, right? Just as good, if not maybe a little bit better than Rojas in terms of fielding, right? But to not have that bat as a whole in your lineup, I mean, you think about where this team could be if they were all healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And for as much crap as Dombrowski got pre-deadline and even a little bit after the deadline, right? Everyone's kind of saying, "Oh, Harrison Bader is like the outfield bat we're going to get." Um, I think we realized, we owe as Phillies fans Dombrowski an apology because bringing in Duran, completely changes the whole complex of the bullpen. Bringing in Bader added just what we needed at a minimal price, but also some of the signings he made, right? Getting Robertson, getting Meza. Walker Buehler had a nice outing last night. Like just picking off the free agent heap here or the guys who have been released or DFA'd, he's like hit all the right buttons. And really the only one that I would say like people looked at as like a major acquisition would have been Duran. So I really think, on the Fox game the other night, they showed the Mets versus the Phillies trade deadline, like the big pieces, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think if you would have asked us on August 1st who had the better trade deadline, a lot of people probably would have said the Mets. But Helsley has been bad. Gregory Soto has been not great. Cedric Mullins, I don't think I've seen him do anything as a Met yet.
No.
Duran has, this is something like I really, I feel like I say it every time I talk about the guy. And I think it's something I'll be saying to my grandkids. Just how do you throw a 99-mile-an-hour splitter? I can't fathom it. And like, it's one of the coolest things to me. Like I love watching Yohan Duran pitch. And Harrison Bader, like I mentioned earlier, like just getting him for not and not having to give up a lot of prospect capital, he has been like the exact ignition that this team needs. Him in the leadoff spot, with Turner being out, has completely like set the tone of every game. The guy's getting 2-3 hits a night. He plays a solid defense, and I love his attitude on the field. Like I feel like that's something this team was kind of missing. Like they seem like they were like just kind of like very like serious going through the motions earlier in the season. It seems like they're
They
having fun
really
again, and I think
they
Bader is kind of bringing a lot of that.
you've seen a lot of, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but like the glimpses back to the daycare. You've seen that, not every game, right? But there's been a handful of games where they come out and they dump the cooler on somebody, or they dump like you. That acquisition seems like it has breathed life back into what became a it became a locker room that became like very stale, very static, and you know I mean, they're not rattling off. I don't think these wins without somebody at the top setting the table. And he has really, like, his personality just fit right in with the guys. And I think that's such an underrated quality for a guy that you acquire mid-season. And Duran the same way. Like, he has just come in and just obviously taken over that role. And for this team to know that they have that guy at the end of the games, maybe takes a little bit of the edge off to feel like they don't have to press nearly as much, because you saw an outing. It was one of the Mets games where, oh God, I can't remember which game, but they end up getting guys on second and third with one out.
Mm-hmm.
And no sweat, right? He gets the next two guys out, game's over. To have that and know that they have that confidence to be able to do whatever they need to do to win the game, it's crazy. It's crazy to see, right? And I'm just looking at a stat. So since August 1st, so since they've acquired Bader, and this is before last night's game, right? 39 hits, 9 doubles, 14 RBIs. He's batting .339. Not again, when you compare him to guys of his ilk that also got acquired at the deadline, he's probably outperforming everybody. And that's a product of not only him, but the people around him.
Yeah, and I think I saw something like he's raised his batting average since coming from Minnesota, like 40 or 50 points or something like that.
That's crazy.
In essentially a month. And remember, in the beginning, he wasn't even playing, every day necessarily, but he's basically played himself into an everyday role now. And I think people, other than just getting like the usual like breather, I think people are going to look at lineups and say, why is Harrison Bader not in there? And I think, on August 1st, people are like, Harrison Bader was the guy we got. But like we said, I think it was one of those moves that helped the team in a couple different ways, not just his play, but also like his personality. Now, Crux did something kind of interesting on the broadcast the other night. I don't know if you caught it, but he was talking about Bader and not sure if his personality would fit into the Phillies clubhouse. So I don't know what that means. Like, does Crux know stuff that we don't?
Interesting.
But then he said the point like, oh wow, I was wrong about that. Like, he's fit right in, and he's kind of turned the tides of this clubhouse a little bit. So maybe just because of how serious this team was, and Bader kind of has like that cocky edge to him a little bit. But I think that's exactly what this team needed. Like, you are one of the best teams in baseball. Have some fun and act like it. Like, other teams do it. Like, you don't have to sit here and be like.
Listen, as you're sitting there talking, I'm thinking about like Harrison Bader is like the meathead that this team needed. It's almost like he has like the fun personality of like the young daycare guys, but the cockiness of like some of the cockiness that we've seen from Castellanos, right? But he does it with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And that outfield rotation. You saw, I can't remember what series it was, but when Rob Thompson, it was when they were in Miami. When Rob Thompson, when he sat Castellanos and basically said like, "Boo-hoo, don't really care because we are going to have to do this in a playoff series, and we're going to have to play matchups, and we're going to have to put the best guys out there." And then you see how it has allowed every one of those guys to kind of shine when they're doing it. Maybe takes the pressure off of Castellanos to feel like he's got to produce every day. And maybe that's why, maybe he was pressing a little bit, but the guy that, the way that Marsh has been playing, right? Marsh is a guy who got sent down to AAA for a stretch of time. Credits Garrett Stubbs for, helping him kind of refocus and kind of reinvent his swing mid-season. The contributions that you've gotten from Max Kepler. Eric, can we go back to the trade deadline for half a second?
Mm-hmm.
I can vividly remember at least myself saying, well, based on the moves they've made, he's probably a guy that they DFA and cut their losses. He has been almost like a low-key trade acquisition based on what he was producing before and the way that he's swinging the bat now. He's had a couple of at-bats where his hands are so fast and he just gets out he just gets out in front of the ball and he absolutely crushes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's playing the way, I think he's actually right now probably playing a little bit better than what we expected. But like, if there was just some sort of consistency in the beginning of the season, I think everyone have a very different take on him. But maybe this like not playing every day thing is sparking like some competition, and these guys are like, well, if I'm going to get any playing time, I have to perform, because we're seeing it from everyone. I mean, even Weston Wilson, when he gets his one start a week or whatever it is, he's been he's not an automatic out up there. So maybe that's like, I think once again Thompson's pushing all the right buttons. I think he's another guy who gets way too much flack. Like he has a pulse on this team, and he's not like a fiery guy, right? So people are like, he doesn't care, why doesn't he ever get fired up about anything? But he doesn't really need to, because the guys in the clubhouse have his back. He's got his guys back, and he knows what buttons to push and when. Does he make a bad decision every now and then? Sure. Every single manager in baseball, even the Hall of Famers have made bad decisions at some point in life. Sometimes things just don't work out. But right now with with the outfield situation he has and the way he's handling it, the guys are really responding to it. And one of the bullpen and the outfield are the two biggest issues going into the trade deadline. And right now, it looks like both of those have been fixed. Now, again, we've seen Stevie streaky before. I'm hoping that we don't get into that. But.
Right. Like, listen, as of today, right, you're talking about a team that's won 8 out of 12 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And they're facing a Royals team that has some young talent. So the way that they're going to have to play over the course of the next couple of days, but the magic number is 3. Which I can only imagine is, with a combination of, the way that the Mets have been playing 2-8 in their last 10. That obviously that feels very perfunctory. It's only a matter of time. That was really sweet to be able to not only to get the sweep, but to get a 4-game sweep and really kind of bury them in double digits this late in the season. Felt really good. And it felt like they've exercised at least a little bit of the demons from that team. Now, playing in Citi Field, different story. But the way that the Mets are playing now, they look like they're playing themselves out of a playoff spot. The game in San Fran that ends well into the night, that I woke up to the walk-off grand slam, to win last night. Like, Giants are going to be a tough team to play, right? And you could have I think at this point, this series coming up against the Dodgers is going to be huge in terms of creating the separation they need to be able to secure the second spot, to be able to get extra rest for these guys that are banged up a little bit, get them ready for that opening series in the playoffs. But the contributions up and down this lineup, in the infield, right? You've seen contributions from Sosa when you need it. You've seen Otto Kemp step in spurts up and down, going up and down between AAA and whenever Alec Boehm's getting banged up. You saw Sosa go out last night. You saw Weston Wilson come in, and I kind of cringed it the other night when they talked about Weston, the prospect of Weston Wilson playing shortstop.
Yeah,
and I was like,
don't need to do that.
No, like second base, I might be able to tolerate. Shortstop, no. but you've seen outside of Harper playing first, right? You've seen those guys, the flexibility that they've had. I got to imagine if Sosa is, he goes out in the middle of the game last night. Got to imagine he probably doesn't play today. You're probably going to see, Weston Wilson at second. You're going to see Stott at short, and Kemp at third. But like, it's funny when you look at this lineup. If you had showed me this lineup way back in the spring, at this point in the season, I would have told you something is drastically wrong. And it's just that it's that next man up mentality. And when you talk about Rob not being like a fiery guy, it's crazy because it seems like he is what he needs to be. Like when he's in the locker room after Schwarber goes and hits the home run and gets to 50, you see that come up. You see the clip of him in the locker room being really fired up in terms of, he does what is Rob Thompson like Jalen Hurts? Like, doesn't matter what the stats are, just does what he needs to do to be able to help his team win.
Mm-hmm. And I think, in front of the media, he portrays a very different personality than what actually happens
Very much
behind
so.
closed doors. And I think that's a very professional way to go about things, I think.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you start kind of being like, all right, the old tired act of constantly getting angry and getting thrown out, like like the Lou Piniella, great manager, but
Right.
how many times can you watch him like pick up a base and throw it before you're like, all right, like come on, man, just have your guys play better, and don't always blame it on someone else. But like, and again, is he the best manager? It's hard to say, but like, it would be great for him to get a World Series, and I want this core to get a World Series so bad, and it feels like 2022 was their shot. 2023, I think, was their best shot until they crapped the bed in with Arizona, and then it's just been like kind of like it looked like it was like kind of like just you peaked here in 2022, and it's been like a step down every year after that. But right now, this year kind of has a different feeling. It kind of has that feeling where they're getting hot at the right time. You're getting contributions from guys who, maybe you're not necessarily always expecting it, like in 22, right? Like think like Gene Segura had some huge moments in 2022. You had guys like Matt Beerling with big moments and stuff like that. So like this could
Matt
be
Stairs, right? Like
right in 08. Yeah, exactly. So it's you need to get production from those types of guys. And right now, like if you're getting production from these kind of ancillary players, that's like the recipe you really need, because we've seen it last year when the entire lineup goes dead and you have no one to really plug in there to try to get any spark in there. Well, you kind of fall flat on your face. So let's see what happens.
I mean, that 08 team and what's crazy, Eric, is like, as good as that team was, it felt like that run kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh,
like
it did, yeah.
We weren't like they had this trajectory of getting close, right? And it was more of like an upward climb, where I feel like this team kind of feels like that team, right? Getting contributions up and down, right? You've got you don't have Howard and and Utley and Jimmy Rollins, but you've got right Schwarber and Turner and Harper, right? And I think the biggest difference between that team in 08 and this team is the pitching. The pitching on this team. When you lose a guy for whatever it's worth, like Aaron Nola for the stretch that they did, and then in the middle late third of the season, right, you end up losing Zach Wheeler, who, all things considered, would have been your Cy Young winner this year. I mean, he and Paul Skeens could go back and forth, but like
he would have been in the conversation. Yes,
he would have been right there, and you still have the ability to be able to navigate and win 8 out of 10, right? With Christopher Sanchez, Luzardo, with Suarez, right? And then, I mean, call it what it is, but Taijuan Walker has not been as bad as he has been in the past, right? Not great, but he has been exactly what you would need out of a fourth and fifth starter, right? Some of those starts look ugly, but then some of them don't look as bad. And then, like, I think about the way that now you add Walker Buehler, right? You add a guy who has pitched in the playoffs, who pitched in the World Series last year, that like, who is now eligible to be on your postseason roster, which is only going to make your bullpen deeper. The way that this team Talk about the starting pitching, because that to me has been the most impressive thing this year.
Yeah, and I don't think it can even be overstated how good the starting pitching has really been. Like, just look at Jesus Luzardo the other night, right? Gives up 4 runs in the first on 5 hits, and then pitches 7 perfect innings after that. Like, the way these guys can like settle in, and even Nola, right? I mean, he's had some clunkers, obviously, but I think some of that's like still coming back and shaking off some of the rust. But his last time out was pretty good. But Christopher Sanchez is like a certified ace at this point. You got Wheeler and him is 1A and 1B. Ranger has like completely had a second half that like the guy just is mowing people down. Like, he's getting way more strikeouts than he ever has. Like, he's getting double-digit strikeouts almost every outing at this point.
Yeah.
And then getting like Taijuan Walker. He's still making too much money for the pitcher that he is, but like, it's better, right? I mean, it really couldn't have been worse. But this is by far his best year as a Philly.
Very much.
And then realistically, like over the course of the season, think like they've gotten Walker Buehler. When Mick Abel had his little stint up here, like he pitched pretty well. Like I think obviously the guys who are on the mound have a big part to do with that, but there's something within the Phillies organization right now where they're just able to make pitchers better. Like so even some of like the bullpen guys, right? Like David Robertson hadn't pitched all season. He's 40 years old and he's coming in and like is like I would trust him right now in a late inning playoff situation.
He's coming in and getting outs, right? The contributions that you've gotten from, I mean, talk about an underrated move at last year's deadline, but the contribution, the role that Tanner Banks has kind of settled into is like, he's, again, another guy that I trust, right? Kirkring has been another guy that has settled in and really kind of figured out where his slot is, right? And, now that, Alvarado is going to go out, right? He's on another IL stint. I mean, you had him back for, a handful of games, but this pitching staff, when they go into a playoff series, is going to be rested, is going to be deep. Talk to me about, and then I know this is kind of looking ahead a little bit, and we don't obviously know what any of those matchups look like. How do you organize the rotation in terms of the guys that you're going to start? Because this rotation at the top is very left-handed heavy.
And that, and that's kind of the issue, because I think you look at it and, 2 of maybe even 3 of your best pitchers in the rotation right now are left-handed. And I don't think you should go into a playoff series all lefties. And I think you can talk about analytics in a positive or negative way, any way you want, but like certain teams do hit lefties better, certain teams do hit righties better. So I think you have to look at that as a thing too. But I think no matter what series it is, I think Christopher Sanchez is your top guy going to a postseason series. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I do like the idea of splitting up lefties. But, I don't know if we've seen enough from Walker Buehler to talk about him in a rotation. So I think you go Aaron Nola. I know he's controversial. I know he's been a little bit inconsistent. But what you can do then from that standpoint is if he finds himself in trouble, or if you don't trust him to go, 6 innings and runs are at a premium in the postseason. You can maybe do like a piggyback thing if you only need 3 pitchers that series and do a Nola start and then have either Ranger or Luzardo come in behind him and then use the other guy. Just the way Ranger is pitching right now, I think he would probably be the best fit in a bullpen because we've seen him do it before. But I also want him on the mound in the beginning of the game, limiting and getting outs. So, and Luzardo's stuff, I think, probably plays a little bit better out of a bullpen because he was pumping 99 in like the 5th inning the other night. So like his stuff, I think if you're only asking him to go, a couple innings, he's not holding back. And you're looking at a guy who can, touch 100 now coming out of the pen, which you don't really have another guy other than Duran who can do that. So I think you're looking at like a situation with Sanchez, Nola, and I'd prefer Ranger in a 3-man rotation. Now, once you get to a 4-man rotation, that's when it becomes tricky because you don't really have another righty except for Walker Buehler. I don't want Taijuan Walker starting a game in the postseason.
No.
I know he's been better, but he's not there yet. Bullpen, maybe he could be on the playoff roster, maybe now. But I still think you go Nola, and I think then you do maybe have to go 3 lefties or do a piggyback situation with a Bueller and your third lefty in a game 4.
Yeah, I think given the rest of the season, they're going to operate with a 6-man rotation, so they're going to be able to get guys some more days off in between there. As much as I just, when you're in a playoff series, I feel like you throw your best bullets, and and it just so if like I know that there's like a tendency to want to look at the lineup and see where teams match up, but every team that they've played that's going to be in the playoffs, they've played well against, and the way like the Dodgers lineup has been very shaky as of late. They were able to go into Milwaukee and battle with Milwaukee and give Milwaukee all it could handle. Even in some of those games where they're down and they battle back, and correct me if I'm wrong, they took 2 out of 3 when they played in Milwaukee.
I think so. Yeah.
And like when I look at the way that they've kind of handled the Mets of late, the way like I'm almost of the mentality like they've got to come and beat this team. Unless this team beats itself, this team has enough talent to be able to get to where it needs to be. And it starts with those guys up front. And I'm looking at those guys and going, all right, well, listen, if I've got to throw 3 lefties, then all 3 of those guys kind of operate a little bit differently to the point where, I think you have the ability in a short series to have a short leash that if you need to go to, if you want to go and mix it up, if somebody gets in trouble early, that like you have enough depth within your bullpen to be able to do that. But I love the way that this team is playing. The team in Milwaukee seems like that is going to be the team that gives them their best challenge to not win to win the NL. But I look at this and I go, they got to come play us. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've gone almost 33 minutes, and we have not talked about Bryce Harper, who is starting to heat that bat has started to heat up. When he starts, generating power to the opposite gap, that's when he's kind of on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the power last night. You saw him put one deep in the seats.
Yep.
That to me is where this can flip. If he gets hot, and listen, I heard who was it? God, he was talking to somebody, or it was on somebody's. It was on.
Was it Ken Rosenthal?
Something about it. He's getting hot at the right time. October.
Yeah, I think it was Rosenthal. And the thing is like, we're talking about all this, and they've won 8 of 10, and the 2 guys who power this lineup in Schwarber and Harper haven't even really been playing their best baseball. It's kind of been, the other guys who are stepping up. So imagine this lineup if you have Schwarber starting to hit home runs again. If you have Harper, hitting home runs and driving those balls into the gap, plus all these other guys hitting the way they're hitting. I mean, are we going to score 12 runs a night? Like, it could be a possibility.
And crazy thing is that the other night they score a whole pile of runs with no home runs, right? You're starting to see the guys drive the ball in the gap. You're starting to see them go first to third. I can't say enough about how much of this lineup playing together and working together, right? That kind of mentality of like going base to base, while slowly integrating those power. It's a really fun team to watch because they're, like we talked about at the beginning, they're getting hot right at the right time. And when you look around the NL, I really do feel like a lot of the best teams are in the National League. seems like the teams in the American League are kind of competing to be like the best of the rest.
Yeah, it's actually like how the tides have kind of turned here. Because I feel like it was always kind of the AL, and now even like the Yankees and Red Sox are playing each other this weekend. They're decent, but like the Blue Jays are leading that division. The AL
Yeah.
West, like none of those teams are particularly scary, right? So
No, you've got the Mariners and Astros that are tied
they're
with
kind of
80
battling each
wins.
other, and the Rangers have been kind of hot. And well, we're big Rangers fans this weekend because they're playing the Mets. So let's go
Yes.
Rangers. They're missing some key guys too. So
Yeah.
and then I saw Scooble left his start last night after like 4 innings or so. So if he's out, what do the Tigers become? So you look at it, and yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not really a team in the AL that I would be afraid to go against in a World Series matchup. But I look at the NL, and there's quite a few teams that I do not want to run into. Number one, actually, being the San Francisco Giants, because there's 2 reasons for this. One, they are on an absolute tear right now. I don't think they're actually a good team, but they're on a tear right now, and we know that getting hot at the right time matters. And the second thing is the Phillies haven't won out in San Francisco in I forget the stat, but it's like something. I remember when we were out there. There's like a few stadiums that this team just like for some reason cannot play in. It's Arizona, Citi Field, and whatever it's Oracle Park, or it used to be AT&T. I don't know what it's called now. Out in San Francisco. So it's like that seems like kind of a scary situation to go into. But like the Dodgers aren't not really that scary right now. Like their rotation, I feel like every year this happens. And on paper, they are far and away the best team on paper. And then everyone just gets hurt. Like, I don't know why they don't do something about like figuring out how to keep a pitching staff healthy, because every single guy seems to miss time on the IL there. Their bullpen has been very shaky, right? Like a lot of the guys they acquired, Tanner Scott he's been awful basically when healthy. Like I'm not really afraid of them. I'm not really afraid if the Padres get in there. Like there's not really a ton of teams, but for the Brewers are obviously they've been very good right now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys there's a lot of guys on that team who are not like, really everyday players that you would have heard, everyday names that I should say that you really would have heard of, but they're making it work. So I'm still like kind of out, but it's been a prolonged hot streak for them, and that's a little bit intimidating. But I'm not necessarily afraid of that, just because I think if you look at this Phillies pitching staff, there is not another rotation, even when healthy, that I think is better than what the Phillies have right now in the National League. So there's not really a lot that scares me. But again, you need to kind of keep this momentum going for that kind of feeling to continue.
Yeah, and listen, Eric, as you were talking, I looked it up. Over the course of the last 10 years, when the Phillies play at San Francisco, they're 7-22.
Yeah, like don't want to do that.
No. And kind of thinking right the same way. There's a handful of teams that like you just don't want to run into, right? Yeah. And for whatever reason, right? I think the thing that I'm looking at is like, how do those playoff matchups? I think the idea that like some of those first round matchups, if they can secure that bye, and be able to get those guys rest, that first round is going to eliminate 2 of those, 4 that you're going to end up not having to play. Which, not to sit here and say like I trust this team and I trust where this team is and what this team can do. But if we're talking about matchups, right? I like their chances in certain matchups. And for some reason, the way that they've played at home, to be able to get those first 2 games at home in a series, changes the dynamic of everything. And I think the more that you can create that environment, I think Cincinnati was a team that I felt like that for a little while. Mm-hmm. Their play seems to be dropping off a little bit. They're a game and a half behind the Mets, but San Francisco, 7 out of 10, in seven wins in their last 10. They're a half game back of the Mets. The Mets are in complete free fall. It's
Love to
funny.
see it.
I have a couple of colleagues at work yesterday, and we spent our I shouldn't say our free time, but we spent our time walking around the building, dropping off brooms at their door, which was kind of funny. And the way that we're playing, it it feels like we're creating a situation where we can set this team up for best success. But
Mhm.
Cubs were playing like their hair was on fire, and their play has kind of dropped off a little bit. Not crazy though,
Yeah,
right?
they're still a
And
little scary. I forgot to mention them. They're still a little scary too.
so you've got the Cubs at the top of the wild card, and then you look at the way that the Padres are playing. The Padres, it seems like it's like whoever's going to win the West is going to be like it's almost like a game of Survivor. Like
Yeah.
whoever's going to like lose less is the team that's going to win, right? Because the separation between the Phillies and Mets, or between the Phillies and Dodgers for that second place, second best record in baseball, is
I think
that
it's
that
5.5.
gap is
Yeah.
But you're as of today, right? You're going to see the Phillies sit with 88 wins, the Dodgers with 82. The Padres are 2.5 back of the Dodgers. The Giants are not going to catch the Padres, but the Giants are certainly in a really good driver's seat to, if they continue to play as well as they are, with the Mets playing as poorly as they are. It's a team that I don't think a lot of people are going to want to run into.
Yeah, no, I agree. It almost has like 2007 Rockies vibes a little bit. Like, I don't think they're a really good team, but they're really hot. Now, I don't think they go on to take the NL, but just like coming in hot and maybe making some things happen in the postseason could happen. But you're right. You made a good point about if you get it, how important that bye is to knock two teams out already. And maybe we'll get lucky if the Giants make it, and another team who does not have as bad of fortunes out in San Francisco can take care of them first. That would be much appreciated.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, as it sits, right, the Cubs would play.
I'm trying to picture.
Cubs would play the Padres, and then the Mets would play the Dodgers.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
To me, that's ideal, right? You let them, you let those guys battle it out, and even if it's San Fran, right? If San Fran and the Dodgers play, right, to be able to have those two teams match up and eliminate one of those two,
That'd be a fun series.
and then it would be a fun series, right? It would be a series that would be played like strictly out on the West Coast, which is great for late night. It's great for that late night. that late night West Coast schedule, but and then you're going to see that as obviously as it sits right now, that Padres Cubs matchup again, two teams that are really good, that are playing really well, and then I don't remember, but does it reseed? Do they, or is it like
no? Baseball does not
reseed.
Yeah, baseball does not reseed.
So okay, like I think I feel like it's a good place to be. Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, all right, so let's finish this series. Right. You've got, talk to me about where you are going into today and tomorrow with the matchup against the Royals.
Okay, so we got Walker tonight for the Phillies. I forgot. I'm just pulling up the pitching matchups real quick here because I forget who. So Walker and Ryan Berger. It's gonna be one of those things where Walker's going to give up runs, and this Padres offense has some pieces that can do some damage. So I think he'll give up some runs, but the way this offense is, I'm not terribly scared there. And tomorrow is Nola and Noah Cameron. So actually, I think if you look at it, pitching advantage may go Kansas City, but neither of those guys are like guys that I'm afraid this offense can't handle. Like Noah Cameron started out the year really well, but he's kind of hit some speed bumps. It's just it's a long season, and he hasn't really he hasn't pitched that much, so I think he could hit a wall. I really thought honestly that this series after the high of coming off the Mets series, could be a bit of a letdown just because the Royals team's kind of sneaky and young. But last night, I think, kind of put that to bed a little bit. Am I expecting a sweep? No. But I think I don't see a reason why we can't take 2 out of 3 here and lower that magic number a little bit.
I think my advice to people is bet the over.
On the
There's
next
going
2
to
games.
be there's going to be some runs scored.
Yeah.
The guys that are pitching are going to give up runs. But if I have to trust one lineup more than the other, right, I trust the production of this lineup to be able to put up runs. And you saw that last night. You saw them be able to, create that avalanche, right? When they score one, they score a couple, and being able to put up the crooked numbers is a huge deal, especially as it's trending in towards towards the playoffs. The more they can extend those innings, I think the key for me is in these next 2 games is like when you have guys in scoring position, capitalizing on that, because you're going to have opportunities to be able to get guys across. You have to take advantage, and especially teams like this that you have an opportunity to bury early. The more that you can support Taijuan Walker and give him 3, 4, 5 early, kind of lets him settle in, and gives you the opportunity to maybe get 4 or 5 out of him. And then, right, I don't think that's a huge ask for him to be able to kind of go through the lineup like 1.5 times. And then you turn it over to your bullpen, and you've got enough guys in there that are playing and pitching well that you can really look. And I think 2 out of 3 is not an unreasonable thing. The Royals lineup, young, scrappy. They have guys that are going to produce. I don't think that lineup matches up. I think when you match up the Phillies lineup against the Royals pitching and vice versa, I think it kind of comes out in the Phillies more often than not. So let's fast forward a little bit. The series upcoming against the Dodgers. Seems like they've matched. They've kind of negotiated the starting pitching to be able to get the guys that they want matched up in this in terms of the starting pitching. Dodgers are not playing their best baseball. And again, I think this series probably out of anything that's going to happen between now and the end of the season, this series against the Dodgers is going to be the one that does the best job at creating that separation for them to really get that, be able to kind of not put guys on a shelf, but get guys the rest that they need going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of opponents, this is like the last huge series of the regular season for the Phillies. And you're right, the way the pitching should line up should be we should definitely see Ranger, Sanchez, Luzardo out there, right? So
yeah.
We're giving them the best that they have in the rotation, and just getting some separation for that 1 or 2 seed for the first round bye is huge. So I think it's it's kind of a good test too to see, okay, where are we against another potential playoff or another probable playoff team, right? To see how the Phillies handle it. I just hate these 10-10 starts.
It is. It's going to destroy your sleep schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, you look at this, right? And it's pretty much for the next week. Because they're going to go from LA to Arizona. And those starts in Arizona are 9:40, 8:10. And then Sunday afternoon is a 4:00 start. So it's like,
but that's the weekend, right? So it's like, all right, I don't mind if I could. All right, that I can handle that a little bit.
But I have to laugh because I'm looking at it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10:10, 10:10, 10:10.
Yeah, no break in there at all.
Right, and then they're off Thursday, and then Friday is 9:40. So it's like that might have to be a DVR. Watch it in the morning while I'm exercising.
Yeah,
the second half of that game, because it's like it's rough. It's going to be rough, but I think once you get done when you come home from that, though, you've got the 3 against Miami and you've got the 3 against Minnesota.
Yep. Our good friends.
Which essentially is going to be your AAA roster. Before we jump out, any surprise in the fact that they made no real big move to make any of their young guys a priority to get them up here this year, specifically Crawford, Miller, and Painter?
No, not really. And the only reason I'm saying that is because like this team seems to wait a little bit and wait until like the perfect time. And I don't know if there was a perfect time. I know with Bohm and Turner both going out and the way Aiden Miller's been playing and getting that promotion to AAA, I know some people are talking about that. We've been talking about Crawford all season, but now he's hurt.
Yeah.
And Painter just, he what you didn't want to do with Painter is just for the sake of getting him his major league debut, bringing him up and then shaking his confidence there. So I'm okay with the way they handled that. Miller, as good as he's been, I think it's important to get him some time in AAA this year and even next year for a little bit. But man, he's looking like the real deal. And Crawford, I think, will be there. I think we'll see him at some point next year. But it's one of those things where if there was a guy not performing, then maybe you do it. But really throughout September, that there hasn't really been a need to bring anyone up. I mean, I guess like you could look hindsight's 2020, but I'm not really surprised. It's always exciting. Like one of my favorite parts of baseball is minor league baseball and watching prospects. Like with MLB TV, like I'm usually watching a Reading or Iron Pigs game almost every single night. And so it's really exciting, but I don't know if you need to like rush it or if there was an actual like need to bring one of those guys up.
Gotcha. Because I'm all right. So last question.
Mm-hmm.
Next season, how many of those 3 play at this level?
I think
out of Painter and Crawford and Miller.
I think at some point next season, there's a chance we see all 3. I think barring something unprecedented, I think we definitely see 2. I think we definitely see Painter. We definitely see Crawford. But if Miller tears up AAA like he did the end of the year at AA, like, can you argue with it? I mean, the problem is finding a spot for these guys, right? Painter, no issue. You know where you're going to put him. But it kind of, I think a lot for Crawford will depend on how the outfield shakes out this offseason. So Kepler, obviously he's having a bit of a resurgence in the second half. He's not coming back. Bader has that mutual option. The way he's playing, though, he may want to test the market. And if you lose both of those guys, then I think Crawford making the opening day roster becomes, a probability. But, if someone gets hurt and say those guys come in and someone gets hurt, then I think we see him come up, sometime at that point too. So I think out of the 3, we almost definitely, I would put like a 99% on seeing Painter and Crawford at some point. And I would even put Miller at maybe like a 60 to 70% chance if, there's an injury, say Bohm gets hurt again. They might need some infield help there. So I could see it happening. And he's been playing a solid shortstop down there too. So that leads me to believe he could play some of the other infield positions.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it shakes out because the position that he plays or could play, there seems to be a logjam currently.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if there's a move that creates an opening or whether there's whatever it is, however it plays out. I think my thought was kind of along those same lines. I think the probability that you see all 3 of those guys next year is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what the timeline is in terms of like
exactly.
Are there guys that make the opening day roster? Are there guys that kind of come up mid-season? But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
I think that their biggest offseason move is going to be what they do in the outfield because of the lack of production that they got early on in the season, but then the inflexibility in terms of where they go. And then to also see the money that they're probably going to invest in Kyle Schwarber and what that leaves them with to kind of spend in for those spots. So
yeah, exactly.
Listen, on the way out, go Phils.
Go Phils.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
Said, Mike.